Analyzing poetry needs some patience, ability of close reading of the given text. Most students ask the question, is there a method to follow in analyzing unseen poetry? Yes, there are some fixed methods which you can adapt according to the text you are given and the time allocation in the poem. Today, we are going to show you an example on how to analyze a poem using TWISTUP method. We are going to analyze the past paper question of g.c.e A-level exam. Not how it appears on the paper, but what you can actually do with the unseen poem. What is TWISTUP? You will be able to learn more about it in our blog, litspring.com. And the basic idea of it is T stands for title, which will be the first key to open the meaning of the poem. W stands for words, the words that stand out from the normal text, which are the choice words of the poem to transfer a specific meaning through the poem. I stand for imagery, like simile, metaphor, and the figurative language, which create images in the mind of the reader. S stand for structure and form. Here we discuss the rhyme scheme, rhythm, meter, line length, etc. T stand for the theme and tone, the key idea of the poem, and how it is demonstrated in the poem. And U stand for your personal or emotional reaction on the poem, and what would you feel after reading the poem, and what is your idea. And finally, P stand for what are the other poetic devices that brings out the central idea and how it is conveyed. Before we start, I have some tips for you when analyzing any poetry or text. First one is use highlighters. At least you should have 3 different colors. And the second one is read the poem aloud. If you are in an exam hall, don't make it too noisy. Then you will get an idea about the meter, rhythm, rhyming scheme, and the central idea of the poem and the tone. And the last one, try to find or guess the meaning of the words. Try to find or guess the meaning of unknown vocabulary according to the context.
The Guard at the Binthui Bridge by John Balaban. How still he stands as mists begin to move, as morning, curling billows creep across his coop-like, concrete sentry-perched mid-bridge over mid-muddy river. Stares up bush-green banks which bristle rifles, mortars, men, perhaps. No convoys shake the timbers, no sound but water slapping boat-side, banksides, pilings. He slung his carbine barrel down to keep the boring dry, and 2 banana clips instead of 1 are taped to make, now, 40 rounds instead of 20. Droplets bead from stalk to sight. They bulb, then strike his boot. He scrapes his heel and sees no box bombs floating towards his bridge. Anchored in red morning mist, a narrow junk rocks its weight. A woman kneels on deck staring at lapping water. Wets her face. Idly the thick rock Binthui slides by. He aims at her, then drops his aim, idly.
We all know that the title is the best summary of a poem. Title normally says what the poem is about. Try to find whether there are any poetic devices here, and think why the poet has used certain words in the poem. The title of the poem is The Guard at the Binthui Bridge. Here you see the definite article the. It suggests this guard is a specific one at a bridge called Binthui. Why is a guard at a bridge? Now, as we have gone through the poem, we have an idea. It is about war, as there are words like bomb, rival, mortar. So we can think that this is a soldier guarding a bridge from enemies. According to the title, we can guess that this poem is about a guard whose job is to keep an eye on enemies crossing the bridge. In poetry, we know bridges are symbols which connect things. They express us about new lives. I am reminded of the short story Old Man at the Bridge here by Hemingway. When you are reading through the poem, highlight the words which stand out from the others. which you feel or see or occur according to a pattern or seemingly specific or whatever it is. Try to spot specific words, mostly nouns and verbs. Here, we do not look for technique words. We have to focus on the underlying meanings on the word and why the poet has used it and what is the effect of that certain word to the poem. Looking at the poem, we see a pattern of verbs like stand, creep, perch, stare, slapping, boring, art tape, strike, nails and staring, which sharply contrasts the actions of the god and the elements of nature, where God's actions seemingly static and immobile, while the actions of nature are quite dynamic and mobile. We consider about the nouns that stand up like sentry, rifle, mortars, convoys, carbine barrel, 40 rounds, etc. Most of them are related to war and military. Those words hint that the poem is connected to war and they sharply stand out from the nature words in the poem. It suggests the effect of it over the man rather than the effect of nature on him. By looking at the words, you have to build an argument and bridge connections with the theme you have found in the poem. Imagery is created by figurative language. Through correct analysis of imagery, the reader can not only understand the poem but also feel it through five senses. When it comes to imagery, in the first stanza, we see visual imagery like cope-like concrete scenery, mid-muddy water, bush green banks. These visual imagery describe the setting and the posture of the god. Let's move to the second stanza. You see appealing visual imagery like water slapping both sides, droplets beat from stock to side, they bulb, then strike his boot. This appealing visual imagery shows the beauty of nature, which unfortunately is not seen by the god. Okay, let's move to the last stanza. You see visual imagery like red morning mist, lapping water. This visual imagery contrasts the human in nature. The human is the woman, she is enjoying in nature. Those visual imagery contrast these two figures, the element of nature and the woman. Structure and form is the visual, systematic and logical presentation of text in order to achieve certain effects to convey the message throughout the poem. Sometimes, through the correct analyzing of structure and form itself, you will be able to unwrap the meaning of the poem. Therefore, this is a very important checkpoint in your analysis. Yes, if you look at the poem, at glance we see the sentences do not end at the end of a line, but continues through to the next line. This is called enjambment. This long line suggests the slow pace of time and the continuity of the job of the god as well as the nature. Okay, the poem does not have a rhyming scheme. That means it is written in pre-verse, but there is internal rhyme. If you look at the first stanza, we see repetition of a sound like harsh hissing sound. This is called sibilance. Further, in the long sentences, we see lots of pauses using punctuation marks. This pauses slows down the pace of the poem and it may show reluctance or uncertainty of the god, maybe about his safety. And the poem is written in third person point of view. It suggests that the poem is seen through the viewpoint of an outsider. It brings no personal attachment, presenting the information as seen by the outsider. Now we can have a basic idea about the theme that the poem is written on. I have thought these themes would suit the poem. The themes like ill effects of war, weakening the human nature relationship, and the futility of war, man and war versus nature. And the poem's tone is somewhat suffocating, and the last part it is peaceful but the overall tone of the poem is nostalgic. After following first few steps, now you can get a better understanding about the poem. Now it is the time to express what you feel and understand about the mystery you are unwrapping. However, you have to present your ideas with the concrete examples from the text. That means you cannot make assumptions or your personal ideas. Right, my personal idea of the poem is the god's inability to experience nature as he is bound to his duty and he has to think of his life from impending disaster and cause of nature. Whatever happens, nature does not stop for anything. The man in nature without involving to it has no effect as man involving and enjoying nature. That means the involvement of man is essential for nature to make it beautiful. The next one is how warfare has affected men not to experience the beauty of nature and suspect his own kind showing the futility of war. He is aiming at the woman to kill her. And further, meaninglessness of nature without human involvement into it. And the emotional coldness of human who has less connection with nature. Now we have covered almost all the parts in earlier steps. However, you can introduce the other poetic devices you found and their relevance to support the major idea of the poem and discuss how effectively the poet has used it. Throughout the poem, we can see the poet compare and contrast, keeping the nature and the god side by side. This is called juxtaposition. And further, we see some sound effects like bristle, slapping, where we can hear the sound. These sound effects are called onomatopoeia. And we see nature is personified, giving it a human quality. For example, they bulb, then strike, and the word like wets. You may find more poetic devices like that, but it is not necessary to find each and everything. Our major target is to analyze the poem. If you have enough evidences to support your major theme, that's it. You have done it. Hope you have a good idea of how to analyze an unseen poem using TWISTUP method. If you have any questions or new ideas, please comment below. You can subscribe to our channel and share the video and become a part of us. So, until the next post, bye.